Now, moving into you know, the yourself. I mean, Elio, I think there's a lot of things that a lot of kids coming up in mini, micro, and junior can learn from you. And for me personally, like I feel like you've got one of the most positive outlooks on at the racetrack, good, bad, or ugly, when you have a race weekend. And that's not everybody. Most of the time, this sport is a struggle. It's very rare when you can win, even after the main event in X30 when you finish fifth. I mean, you still got kind of bullied a little bit in the first couple laps and fought back, and the speed was good enough that you're able to get to the top five, to the podium. But your mindset, man, I'm curious. Was there ever a point as you were coming up that, I mean, you said now you don't compare yourself much to the other kids, maybe the haves or the have-nots, or where you're at of, the comfort of a bigger 10 or having a lot of engines or having more seat time, which is a constant thing that a lot of drivers compare themselves to. But you're positive, man. You're a positive kid. You're always smiling. I rarely see you in a bad mood when I'm saying hi to you, and I say hi to you almost every weekend that you're there, even last year in junior. And granted, it's easier to be happy when things are going good, when you're winning the
Yeah, for sure.
USPKS championship last year, when you're running good this week, when you got family around. But is that just who you are? Was there a point when you kind of started to take the sport in a different light and just be happy to be a part of it? Like, have you always been this positive, really happy-go-lucky kid whenever you were coming up?
I mean, I have to say a lot of it is just kind of how I came up from the sport. So a lot of it was from my dad. So he's been my mechanic since day one, since we started racing. And a lot of the times, especially when I moved up from mini to junior, it was quite a big difference. Obviously, it's a full size, you're getting used to the new engines and stuff. But there, I felt I got pushed around quite a bit on my first year, and I was disappointed a lot because I felt like I wasn't doing as good as I could have been doing. But my dad always reminded me that it's easy to be, in the happy spirits when everything's going your way. But, it shows your character when things aren't going your way, how you respond. So I always remember that and try and be as positive as I can, because I feel like the more positive you are with something, just I feel like the better outcomes you're gonna have. So just kind of that with my dad, and just kind of the experience I've had through racing, and especially on the track, I feel like my mindset has changed quite a bit. Before, if I felt like I was falling back too far, I'd start to overdrive pretty hard and then just fall back even worse. But now I feel like I keep my composure pretty well. So a lot of it comes with experience, and then a lot of it comes from my dad as well.
And there's not a lot of guys. I know I look back and at the races I was able to do with my dad, and my dad was unable to kind of keep coming with me to the racetrack when I was about 16 or 17. I've got four younger siblings. They're all doing different sports, and I wish that not only could I have raced more, but I could have had my dad around for more races when I was really starting to hit my stride a bit as I got a bit older. Do you think about that? I mean, I don't think a lot of kids take that into consideration early on, that how special it is that your dad's able to be with you every step of the way. Is that something that you at this age can even appreciate, that you're able to spend all this time with your dad, traveling the country, going up against the best in the nation, the best in the world? Like, do you think about that how cool that is that you're able to have your dad with you every step of the way?
I think about it quite a bit, because then, you look at a lot of other drivers and you see them with, either they have a paid mechanic or a mechanic that they hire, and you kind of look around and they're on the grid and they're not really talking to their mechanics or anything. But having my dad there with me all the time, it's just I feel like it makes me a lot more comfortable when I'm on going to the track or being at the track, because I can be myself. We work together pretty well. Sometimes we butt heads, but in the end, we sort it out. But yeah, I'm pretty grateful to have him by my side.
And you talk about composure. Obviously, Charlie's Blaine. Uh, I heard one dad describe him as kind of like Mr. Miyagi from the Karate Kid, of how quiet and introverted and reserved he is, and for the most part, like almost always a pretty mellow tone. I have to imagine you've run with Charlie for the last few years, that you've probably seen that as well, and it's rubbed off on you. That guy is very center of the road. He's not an overly outwardly emotional guy. Do you think that's probably factored in a little bit too, of you being able to stay neutral, at a lot of race weekends when you're behind the under the helmet?
Oh, for sure. I mean, especially because we ran with them in 2019, so kind of my last years in mini. But it was really when we moved up to junior where you kind of had to start from scratch with everything, that he really taught me quite a bit of not only the driving but kind of the strategy on the track and just your mindset of how to handle things in certain situations. So a lot of the props also goes to him as well. Yeah.
And I mean, the last thing I got for you, man. I'm sure there's no better weekend you could have scripted besides maybe racing at Katy to have your breakout weekend where you're really, not that you hadn't already made a name for yourself, winning junior national titles last year, winning a junior state title last year, and having a podium in your first 125 race at PK, but to put it on the pole in as competitive of a field at the top end as we see at Supernats, to win KA, to win heat races in the pro class at a race that's near your home where you got family and friends there. I mean, you had a cheering section every interview. Like,
Yeah.
I bet was that both like a blessing and a curse, like both almost like super cool to have them there and pump you up, but probably some added pressure to go and perform in all of them when you were to put your helmet down. Because I think for any kid to have a crowd like that behind you, you almost feel like you got to perform for them, right?
I didn't really think of it as a curse. A lot more of a blessing for sure, especially since we were back in my hometown racing. But I think that's also a little bit of my mindset. When I go onto the track, I kind of clear everything out and just hone in on the racing aspect. So I don't really think of who's watching, but more of just dial it in. And then when I go across the finish line, I go like, wow, yeah, all my family's here. And so yeah.